Welcome back, art students. In today's lesson, we will create citrus fruit. Ready to begin? In this lesson, you will need oil pastels, and today we'll be using white, orange, pink, green, light yellow, and dark yellow. Watercolor paints, today I'll be using a liquid watercolor. If you don't have liquid watercolor, you may use your watercolor palette, water for rinsing your brush, paintbrush, masking tape, and white paper. Okay, let's get started. In today's lesson, we will create some citrus fruit using a grapefruit, orange, lemon, and lime. I was inspired this week as I cut into one of my citrus fruit by all the beautiful symmetry that you see in the lines and the segment separating all the fruit and the beautiful rind. So today we will be using a grapefruit, pink grapefruit, a green lime, yellow lemon, and an orange. Okay. It smells really good. Put that to the side there. All right, we have two pieces of paper today, and we're going to use tape to connect these two pieces. So find your masking tape, and you don't need to cover the whole line, but you do need to connect it maybe in a couple spots. So I'm taking my masking tape and I'm going to connect those two pieces of paper here and maybe another one here. Maybe one more here, just a small piece. Okay, so right on that line, I have masking tape that is connecting these two pieces of paper. Now we're going to take our paper and we're going to flip it over so you don't see the masking tape. And this will help keep our pieces of paper together. So when we're finished, our pieces will fit together like a really cool puzzle. It's a nice little series that we're doing. Okay, so we're going to start with our orange. Find your orange. We'll be using oil pastels today. If you don't have them, you can use crayons. They work well, but pastels are really nice for blending. So we'll be using lots of rounded lines today. We're going to start on the left-hand corner of our piece of paper. It's down here. Okay, so I'm going to touch just about in the middle of the piece of paper, and I'm going to make a rounded big line up and over. I'm not going to go all the way to the corner because I want to leave a little bit of space for my lemon that's going to come in here. Okay, so touch the middle of your piece of paper on the left, and I'm going to make a big rounded line up and over. Okay, now we're going to trace that line again with orange, so we make our rind a little bit thicker. And you can do this a couple times, pressing darker until our rind is kind of thick. Maybe about 3 or 4 times. We're going to go up and over with our oil pastel, all the way to the edge of the paper. Okay, and now we're going to make the little fruit segments here in our orange. Okay, so let's start right in the middle, and we're going to leave a little bit of space. This is the fruit wall right here, and that's going to be white. So we don't want to, I want to leave a little space between the rind and the fruit. I'm going to make a line here, short line, 1, 2, maybe a little bit of the 3 here. Your paper you might only be able to squeeze in 2 or 3 on the side. So we have our first middle line here, another line to the side, and then down. And then on the other side, another line over. These are broken up lines. Okay, so we have these lines here, and this is going to be the top of our fruit here. Okay, so our lines are going to start sort of wide and come in a little bit thinner. So I'm going to come in a little bit of an angle. Let's start with the center line. Come down. Do you see how this line is slightly going in? And let's finish this fruit segment here. A little bit in. Okay. Now the other line, touching just the end of the line, bring that line straight down and in. And again on the other line, straight down and in. And if you have space down here, you'll have a very small part. Okay, so there's our right. Now let's do our left. Touching the end of the line, we're going to make a straight line down and in a little bit. And again on the other side. And I have space for a little line here. Okay, now we're going to take our orange and we're going to do some scratchy filling in like this. I'm not going to worry about getting all of my shape filled in because I'm going to go over that with a yellow, and that will really brighten up this orange and make it look sort of almost a tangerine color. So I'm making my lines kind of scratchy. I have a little bit of white space, but I'm not worried about it because I know that I can use my other color to shade in that white space. I don't want to leave any space white in the end, but for now it's okay. So be careful not to color in your white space between your orange. That's the part that separates the fruit. I'll lift up my oil pastel and go to the next shape. We have a pattern here of orange, white, all the way to the end. Okay, now I have finished coloring in my orange segments with dark orange, and now I'm going to use yellow. And remember, if I'm going too fast, you can pause and catch up with us. Okay, so put your dark orange away and get your bright yellow. And now I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to go right over that orange, filling in all those white spots. When those two colors mix together, make a really nice bright orange, like a tangerine color. I want to make sure that my colors go all the way to the edge of the paper, not leaving any parts white in that little fruit segment. Do you see? There's a lot of white in here, but I've shaded in all that white with this yellow. Okay, so do all parts of your orange the same way. I'm not worrying about trying to color in those tiny little spaces. I'm just going right over my orange and it fills in. Okay, when you finish coloring in all of your fruit segments here, we're going to take that yellow and we're going to trace that orange line that we made here. We're going to take our yellow and go right up to that orange. And leave just a little bit of yellow. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. All right. Go ahead and put your yellow away. And now we will start with our pink grapefruit, and that's going to be on the left-hand side. Here's our pink grapefruit. Okay, so find your pink. And this one's going to be right in the center. I don't want to go all the way to the top because that's where I'm going to squeeze in my lime. Okay, so I'm going to start at the very close to the top, but leaving some space for my lime. And I'm going to make a rounded line over into the middle of my paper. I'm going to cross the line in the middle and bring that line back in all the way off the page. So it's going to go out and back in. Remember, I'm making a rounded line for my pink grapefruit. Okay. So touching just the end of the piece of paper, I'm going to make a rounded line out. It's kind of curved, and I'm going to bring it back in. Okay, now we're going to trace that line a few times too because the rind is thick. So you can make long lines like this, tracing that rind. You see I have some white space between, and that's okay because I can go back and shade that in. Okay, so I see some white here, so I'm going to take my pink and shade in that space. Okay, I have a nice thick pink rind here. And now I'm going to make the fruit on the inside. I'm going to start in the middle like I did over here. Now it's kind of tricky doing that from the side here. So what you can do, the same way we did the orange, I can take my paper and I can put it on its side like this to paint my pink grapefruit. Okay, so turn your paper this way so you have a pink rainbow. And then we're going to make our fruit segments here. We're going to follow the rounded line, the curved line here. And I'm going to go right in the middle first. 1, 2, 3. Maybe you have space for more or a few, less maybe. Okay, so starting with the one in the middle, touch the sides, and we're going to make those lines that come in. There's one fruit segment here. Okay, so touching the end of the line, and it looks like I might have to cross the page. That's okay. That'll make it look connected. That's what we're looking for. So go in. Another line in. I'm seeing a lot of white space here, so I think I can squeeze in just a little one there. Okay, now we're going to do the same by shading in our pink here. I'm making it scratchy, but leaving maybe a little less this time, a little less white space. Go ahead and shade in all of your fruit segments with pink. And remember to leave the space between white. Okay, after you've used your pink to shade in all of your fruit segments, I found that a really pale yellow looked really nice to sort of put a couple scratchy lines in my grapefruit. It makes my grapefruit look a little more realistic. If you look really closely, there are different shades of pink and a little bit of lighter pink that looks kind of yellow. Just giving it a little bit of contrast. So I'm just doing a little bit of yellow right over my pink. And do that to each fruit segment. Just a little. I want to make sure that it stays looking nice and pink, not yellow. All right, now I'm going to just gently take my light yellow and I'm going to trace that pink rind here. Okay, now our grapefruit is finished for now. Okay, now we're going to do, so it's starting to look like our other piece here, right? We've got the orange on the bottom, grapefruit on the side, and now I think we'll do the lime here at the top. But we can help ourselves out by taking our piece of paper, pick it up, and put that in front of you like this. So now your orange is on the top. And now we're going to do our lime down here. So you'll need your light green. This is your lime color. And we'll be doing our lime down here. Okay, so I think we should start maybe on the side that has the pink grapefruit so we don't run out of space and then have a hard time squeezing it in. Okay, so let's start maybe right at this corner here on the right hand side underneath our pink grapefruit, and I'm going to take my green lime and I'm going to make a rounded line up and over. Okay, so up close to the pink grapefruit and over, right off the page. Okay, and now I'm going to trace that line a few times so I have a nice thick green rind for the lime. That's the skin of the fruit. And I want to shade all that in green. So once your lime rind is looking kind of thick, like a little green rainbow here, you're going to stop and then we'll make the fruit. Okay. Now let's make our fruit. I need to peel back my paper just a bit. Okay, same way we did the orange and the grapefruit. We're going to make those little fruit segment lines all the way. We're going to follow this line here. So starting in the middle, one line, and it's sort of a curved line. I'm following this line here. 2, 3. Now let's do the ones on the left. 1, and looks like only 2 on this side. Maybe you have more space. Okay, we're going to make our lines touch the end of the middle line. And we're going to make a straight line down and in just a little. Down and in just a little. The other side of the line, down and in just a little. We're going to do that to all of our lines on the top. Down and in just a little. Okay, once you have finished making your shapes, closing your little fruit segments, we're going to now shade them in with some scratchy green like this all the way across, and we're going to put some yellow in those white spaces, so don't worry about coloring in all of the green, because we're going to put some yellow in there to make it look really bright. Okay, I have shaded in all of my green, and now I'm going to take my light yellow and I'm going to just fill in the white parts with my yellow. And when the green and the yellow mix together, they make a really nice bright yellow. Looks like a nice ripe lime. I'm going to do all my fruit segments like this. Trying to shade in all of the white. Okay, once you have shaded in all of your green fruit, your lime segments here, we're going to take that light yellow and we're going to trace that rind line here right under the green. So there's just a line of yellow. Now I'm using with my oil pastel, I can trace it like this and then maybe go over that line a few times, or I can kind of just make it thick as I go by going back and forth. All right, we are finished with our yellow, and now we are looking for what's left, our lemon here on the side. Okay, so let's take our paper once again and turn it this way. So we have this big open spot here for our lemon. And you're going to have to try to squeeze it in the space that you have left. So maybe this lemon isn't quite as thick. Maybe it's not as big. And we're going to maybe start in the corner and make a rounded line up and back down to our line. Okay, we're going to trace that line a few times, just like this, making my rind nice and thick. I'm using my oil pastel, I'm doing the back and forth motion to make it thick, or you can just make one line at a time, like this. Whatever is easier for you. All right. Okay, so we have our nice rounded lemon line here, and we're going to make those segment lines now with our fruit. 1. I'm going to follow that rounded line. 2 and 3. I'm leaving some space for the white at the top. So I have 3 on this, 2 on this side, and let's see if I can squeeze 1 and 2 on the other. Okay, we're going to start with the center line at the top. We're going to make our lines slanted and in just a little. There's one fruit segment. We're going to do that to all of the yellow segments here. Okay, to shade in my yellow, I'm not going to be using the top to make my scratchy lines. I'm going to use the side. I'm going to go really light as I shade in, making a really, really light line using the side of my oil pastel. Okay, once you have shaded in all of your fruit segments with the light yellow, now you can use the top of your oil pastel, and I'm just going to make some darker little lines like this, like maybe little pieces of pulp. Just a few in each. All right, now we are ready for our white. Okay, we're going to start with our lemon. This is kind of a tricky part because we're using white pastel on white paper, so you really have to use your eyes to see where did I put my color, or you might need to take the paper to bend it a little bit to see if you have oil pastel on it. So now we're going to take our oil pastel and we are going to shade in all of the white of the yellow lemon. And you're going to make your oil pastel go right up to the color. It looks nice when they kind of mix together a little bit. When I take my white right up to that bright yellow, I get sort of a lighter yellow between them. So follow that rind first. We're going to go all the way along that rind line. And make sure you take your white all the way into the fruit segments here, putting lots of white all along the top. And now I'm going to carefully take my white and I'm going to shade in all of the little white pieces of white between my yellow fruit, my lemon. I'm pressing down hard and I'm trying to make short little fast color marks so I know that I'm getting in that space. Okay, so I'm going to check my work to see did I color in all parts, and it looks like I have. So I've shaded in my white of my lemon. And now we're going to go over to our green lime. So I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to turn it now on its top again. And I should have the lime at the bottom so it's close to me and I can shade in my white now. So take your white and we're going to trace that rind line again. Get your colors right up next to each other so there's a little bit of mixing. Okay, so now I've traced my white rind line here, and now I'm going to go between each of my fruit segments here, the green lime. Get your white right up against that green line. It looks kind of nice sometimes when the white pulls the green into its space. Now you might be wondering, why are we coloring white oil pastel on white paper? We could just leave it plain. But the reason why we're doing this is because we're going to be adding watercolor paint when we're finished, and just in case we get our watercolor paint in this space, we want to keep this looking white. We're going to be using blue today. We don't want watercolor paint mixing between our lime. Okay, I'm going to check my work to see did I color in all parts of my lime white between, and it looks like I have. Okay, so we've done our yellow lemon, our green lime, and now let's turn our piece of paper. So the grapefruit is now on the bottom. Okay, and we're going to do the same with our grapefruit. So taking your white, we're going to trace along the rind right up to the yellow and the pink. Pressing down hard. Okay, and then go between each of the fruit segments here. Okay, there is my pink grapefruit. And last, I have my orange. So now I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to rotate it, turn it. So now my orange is close to me and on the bottom, and I can get to that a little easier. Starting with this white space here underneath the rind, go ahead and take your white and shade in that space next. Get your colors right up next to each other. And in between each part of the fruit. Okay, let me check my work to see, did I color in, shade in all the white? It looks like I have. I might maybe do a little tap to get off the little bits. And now I'm ready to add my watercolor paint in this big open white space here. I'm not going to take my paint and go over my fruit today. I want to leave those looking really bright. If you get a little bit of paint on the fruit, it'll run off because we're using watercolor paints and the oil and the water don't stick together. So find your paintbrush, and I'm going to go carefully around the top first of my green lime. Okay, I'm going to make sure that there's no space between the green rind here. So I'm choosing blue today. I thought blue looked really nice. You can choose a different color if you like, but I think this blue really looks nice. There's great contrast between these colors. And I have a liquid watercolor here, but if you don't have the liquid watercolor, you'll need to use blue from your watercolor palette. And you'll get it ready by dipping it in the water. Okay, so I'm going to carefully now start at the top. I'm going to take my blue and go right along that lime line all the way over. I don't want to leave any space between my watercolor paint and my line of color. Now my pink grapefruit. See, I have a little white space here, so I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to carefully go right next to it. Not going too fast so I can control my brush. Shading in all the white spots. Next, I'm going to follow the line of my lemon. And then last, my orange. Taking my wet watercolor paint, I'm going to push that wet paint all through the dry spots, the white spots of my piece of art. Watercolor paints dry pretty quick. So now it looks like I have shaded in all of the white spots around my fruit. Now, I think I'm going to take, on the dry spots, I can see that it's dried here a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to my paper. You'll see some really pretty watercolor lines here when you do that. Where it's dry, see it's kind of wet here, so I'm not going to add more paint there. But where I can see that it's kind of dry, I might take my blue and maybe make some more lines right through my paper. And this will dry really beautiful. All right, let that dry a little, and those parts will dry really pretty, I think. All right, there you have your very own piece of art with beautiful citrus fruit. It's fun when you're finished. When it's dry, you can maybe put together your piece with a friend's piece and see if you can make them work like a puzzle, or they look beautifully displayed together on a wall with lots of citrus fruit. Okay, so when your work is dry, you can choose to keep it together as one piece, or you can take the tape off and have a nice side-by-side piece like this. Thanks for painting with me today. See you next time. Bye.